because we call that the dura, blood that's under the dura but outside of the brain. We call it subdural blood. It's a common problem. You're actually the second person I'm meeting tonight who's had this kind of a neurosurgical issue. Usually, in people who take medications like you do for heart problems, atrial fibrillation, etc., it tends to be that you bump your head and you might not even realize it, and then over the course of, say, a couple days, it might accumulate slowly because the veins in your brain get kind of fragile past a certain age, and it's not the sort of thing that you need a big car crash to cause trouble. It can be just you bumped your head on a cabinet or doing mechanic work, for example, and it's something you didn't even think anything of, but then over time it builds up enough that it can start to cause some trouble. And at this point you only have headaches, which is great news. I'm very happy that with the amount of blood that's in your head right now, that we're not talking about, weakness or you can't stay awake or anything like that. So I'm gonna show you these pictures here. So this is like we're standing at the foot of the bed, looking up through the bottom of your head. So this is the tip of your head there, the back there, right side, left side, and just to kind of orient you a little bit. So this is much lower, but these are your eyeballs and those are your ears. So way up high on the right side, the really bright white stuff is the bone, and the gray stuff on the inside is your brain. And this sort of crescent moon of this in-between mixed white to bright gray, that's all blood. And the fact that it doesn't all look the same, that there are some areas that look a little darker and some areas that look a little brighter, that supports this idea that this might have been going on for a couple days, and the blood might be building up over time, and that there, for whatever reason, something today. Do you have blood pressure problems? Like, do you take medications for blood pressure? Sometimes just a little bump in your blood pressure can be enough that it starts to make things really symptomatic, and your headaches get bad, or you just get more blood in that space. So if you had come in as a trauma, we measure the distance that the blood is pushing the other stuff over in your head. So everything in your brain is symmetric for the most part. And usually this stripe in the middle is right where this yellow line would be. And so things are scooted over a good 5 or 6 millimeters. And then when we look at the actual blood, the thickest spot is probably somewhere on the order of about 1 centimeter, maybe a little bit more. This is sort of a slice that's cut at an angle, so it's not really a fair measurement. But those numbers for our purposes are usually when we would say, this is someone who we don't feel safe just leaving the blood there, that the possibility of it accumulating further is significant, and that since you're doing really well right now, we would not want to put you in a position where there'd be considerable risk of you deteriorating and either ending up with a problem where we have to rush you to the emergency or to the operating room on an emergency basis, or there's a possibility of a long-term neurologic issue. There's a couple different factors that affect our decision making. We're going to get another CT scan right now because it's been a good 5-6 hours since the last one, and if you went from, I'd call that a medium amount of blood to a whole lot of blood, then we're going to be obligated to say we think we should probably deal with this as soon as possible. I think that's unlikely. I think it's more likely that it's because you look so good neurologically right now. I think it's more likely that we'll see something relatively stable. And if that's the case, we will probably not rush you to the operating room. We'll probably be talking about a surgery either tomorrow or Sunday, after we've given the medications that you've gotten this evening to reverse the blood thinners a little bit of time to take effect. That the chance of you having either the blood come right back or some sort of a bleeding issue in surgery, because those are difficult medications to completely reverse. We can do an incomplete reversal pretty well, but we can't get it all the way back to normal. That's a risk for having a more difficult surgery, or a surgery that has more risk of complications with it. Like I said, if there's been a big change, we wouldn't hesitate to say you need an emergency surgery, And after we take a look at the repeat CT scan, I'll let you guys know. I'm going to talk to Dr. Spinner, he's our consultant on call this evening, and as a team, we'll make a recommendation, and then obviously it's your decision ultimately if you want to go ahead with surgery, if that's what we think is best for you. It's enough blood in your head that I don't think we'll be able to just watch it. I do think you will need an operation at some point in the next several days. And we're certainly going to keep a close eye on you here in the ICU until we've treated this and made a plan for what comes next. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Before I examine, do you have questions about any of that? I know it's a lot to take in, and I'm not going anywhere.
Sleeping here a little bit.
Yeah, and that actually, I've been noticing that myself, and it makes me a little bit worried, because that's another thing that happens early in the process of the pressure in your head going up. And that's the reason we would rush you to surgery, that if there's more blood accumulating, that's higher pressure,
Sure.
and that can cause, eventually, neurologic trouble.
I thought I was getting some medication and it was affecting me
You
some.
were, and so that's kind of a confounding factor in all of this, and it's why we're lucky to have such a good nursing staff up here that can keep a very close eye on you, and I'm here and Dr. Nesbig's here, so we're not going to rush into any decisions, and the CT scan will be very helpful, but it's one of the things we keep an eye on, and the medication is probably a part of that. Do you mind if I examine you quickly? Look here at my finger, follow it this way, and this way, look up, and down, close your eyes tight, open them big, scrunch up your nose, show me a big smile, state your tongue, good. Look right at my nose for me. Look right, thanks, all right. Good, open your mouth again. Good. Let me see your hands. Give me a good hard squeeze. Get me in. Good. Pull me in towards you. Push me out. Good. Put your arms straight up in front of you like this. Hold them there until I count to 10 with your eyes closed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. I want you to do one more now. Open your eyes. Do just like this, like you're stopping traffic all the way out in front of you. Now close your eyes. Hold them just there for a couple seconds. Keep holding. Good, you can relax. Push up here with your leg. Push up here with this leg. Push up with your feet. Push down. Good. Adjust your big toes up on my fingers. Good. Everything feels normal to you? No weakness, numbness, tingling, funny feelings anywhere? Just a little sleepy?
Yeah.
All right, let's get a CT scan and we'll talk some more, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, you take it down. Thank you. You folks have any questions I can answer? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so we're gonna take, they're ready for it. We're gonna take them down right now. I just wanted to get that piece of information. We're gonna go look at the scan.
Sure.
I'm gonna call Dr. Spinner, and once we have all the pieces of information and we have a plan to recommend, I'll let you guys know what we think we should do. Unless there's a big change in the CT scan, I think we're probably gonna watch at least until the morning, and then talk about the surgery we can do if we wait 48 hours or so is a less invasive operation. That we could potentially do a small hole here and a small hole here and effectively flush the blood out. Right now, it's like a piece of Jell-O sitting on the top of his head. Like if you imagine when you get a bruise and the blood clots, it forms a thicker piece. And if he needs surgery tonight, he needs surgery tonight. And that's, you know, I wouldn't not do it if I thought there was a good indication. Like his neurologic status was changing, he was having really bad symptoms and they were getting progressively worse. The CT scan changed a bunch. But to get blood out when it looks like it does right now, this early phase of things, you would need to do a very big incision and take a big window of bone off, put it back on at the end of the case. So we call it craniotomy, but it's a more invasive procedure. It's still something we do every single day. It's a very safe surgery. We'll talk more about the details about what our plan would be and what the risks and benefits would be if we decide to recommend an operation. But the alternative, if we can wait a few days, it would be to do a small burr hole, one at the front front and one at the back, and to use those to drain more liquefied blood. The same way like you get a black and blue in your arm, at first it's a big lump and then it kind of just turns into that flat, dark patch. The same thing happens everywhere in your body. So if we give it a couple days, it turns into fluid that's a lot easier to take out. But we want to do what's best for him and we want to do what's safest for him. So we're going to get a little bit more information. We have some lab tests we're waiting on as well. That'll help us make the decision.